Today on Truck Tech, big diesel power begins with big old turbos.
And we'll tear down our Duramax to get it ready for a 1,000 horsepower rebuild.
Yeah, baby!
Woohoo! Yeah!
Remember Austin's F-250 from last year? Well, now it sits in his driveway, barely running and blowing smoke out the exhaust. Leadfoot here probably cracked a piston, but it might be normal for a 6.4. Yeah! Now he's in a loaner where obviously those old habits are hard to break.
There you go. Yeah, buddy. That's floored.
There's a lot of freaking birds. Like, what are they all doing?
Birding around, man.
The way I see it, there's no better way to start the day than burning a little bit of rubber.
Dude, for sure, that's how we do business. Even though I was given specific instructions not to do burnouts in this truck by Tom A, who's my stepdad.
Yeah, so what's the story? You're borrowing some wheels just until you get your truck put back together?
Yeah, man, my 6.4's dead, so I'm not proud of it, but I'm putt-putting around in this GMC. Can't break it because it has no power.
Hey, the way I see it, this is an upgrade even if you don't want to admit it.
Right? I kind of feel like a classy dude driving this. But bro, where are we at? We in the boonies. You got me out here. It's a cool truck we gonna check out or something?
Yeah, you know, we're gonna be working on some diesels a little bit later. We got the LML, and I figure since that truck's gonna be torn apart for some time before we get it put back together, we gotta get some inspiration, kind of get a little bit of motivation, I guess. So I got a buddy who's got a couple of old Cummins, and he said we could go kind of drive around with him and he'd show them off to us. So yeah, we're just checking out some cool trucks.
Yeah, I'm down with that. This it?
Yeah,
This dude's spot right here?
right here, this is the place. Turn
I
on in.
see 2 diesels for sure.
3.
Maybe 3.
Hey, you must be John.
Yep.
How are you? Very good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Austin, how
Good
are
to
you?
meet you.
So I heard you had a couple of cool diesel trucks, but I got to say, a Ford Ranger is not what I expected. Tell us about it a little bit.
Well, it's something that I decided to see if I could do it after I got my other truck into the 14s.
Looking like a full-blown race truck to me, not a daily driver, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's its main potential. There's a race truck.
The slicks are kind of the dead giveaway, but what you got under the hood? This is a Ranger. You got like a little 2.8 Cummins or maybe a 4BT?
No, I got a little something better than that.
Well,
Gotta show me.
let's pop the hood and check her out.
You got that one?
Come on.
Yeah, that's a 12-valve 6BT Cummins underneath the hood.
I was expecting at least a Ford power plant, but I get it. This is cool, dude. You ever seen anything like that?
No, that's pretty impressive. And I don't know if you guys know anything about Cummins diesel engines, but they are big. And this is a little truck. So how'd you get it in here? What's the story?
It's just something I wanted to see if I could do. I used to drag race my other truck, my Ford, and I got that into the 14s. I was happy with that, so I figured let's see if I can build something that if I break it or blow it up, I put it on the trailer and fix it another day.
So you bought this with the intention of building it, racing it, and just having fun, doing something out of the box. Obviously, you don't expect to see the Cummins under it.
Exactly.
And so how much cutting did you actually have to do to get this thing under the hood? Because up front here, you still got the stock core support, you got a front mount intercooler and a radiator. So I'm guessing you had to cut on the firewall side?
Yeah, I had to go in about 6 inches.
So I'm guessing cab up, figured everything out, chopped it up,
Yep.
put the cab back on the frame.
Well-
Easiest way to do it, because putting this in and out from the front.
Yeah, if
just
you want to call it easy.
not gonna be fun.
I spent some time, I had to make the motor mounts, I had to make other brackets for like the tensioner, the water inlet, also the trans mount and the trans cross member, so along with boxing in the frame and take care
Stiffen
of
it up.
Yeah, and then also take care of the front suspension with different springs. So,
Well, that's cool, but let's crank it up.
right,
I gotta hear this thing. You gotta love the hood stack.
Why do I love this so much? It sounds awesome.
It's the most distinctive sound of any diesel out there.
Oh, you know it Cummins instantly. Even if the hood was closed and you crank it, you can coming.
That giveaway.
All right. Woo. Dude, love it. Love it. Yeah, go ahead and kill it. Man.
That is a really cool truck, man. I'm
big.
digging it.
Yep.
Thank you. I like it.
But I think you're holding out on us because I got a really clean second-gen Dodge right here behind us. So what's the story on that?
It's a little something I picked up.
Dude.
Bad habits.
Diesel over here, diesel over here, diesel over here. I love it. We can stay here all day.
Oh, I got it,
Seriously.
man. We could.
This what we got here is my 99 Dodge 2500. It's my daily.
So you must have painted this truck, right? Because this is way clean.
No, it's been touched up in a few spots. Other than that, I just try to polish it and keep it clean.
All right, well, I love the color choice. That bright green works on a black truck for sure.
I knew it wasn't stock. S&B hooked up to a what, S360?
It's a 363. Yep.
63?
Speed manifold and the big front mount intercooler, that's a plus. What's your fuel system like?
I got 712 injectors, and then I've also got air dog coming out of a sump on the tank.
Yeah, I mean, you got to run a lift pump on these because that stock one, it'll lose pressure and wipe out the VP44.
Yeah, that's what started it all.
This thing is set up.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but it's a little chilly out here.
Dude, crank them up. Let's
go
roll.
for a ride. What do you say? You like doing burnouts?
Sure.
Okay,
Let's
which
go.
truck though?
No, we're going in this one.
Okay,
Just
I'm down.
decided.
Next, get you some of this 3-ton rolling burnout.
PowerNation is brought to you by Rock Auto.
Guess I'm in the back, huh?
Hey, that's a perfect spot for you.
I'm pretty used
John Davis is a friend and diesel junkie who's built some over-the-top trucks. This he calls rearranged, sporting a 12-valve Cummins that runs the 8th mile in the 7s. There's just something about a Cummins, man. That rattle, that sound, the exhaust.
Means business, that's for sure. We're going for a ride in this daily. A second-gen two-wheel drive Ram powered by the 5.9 24-valve Cummins.
So you drive this thing every day. What kind of fuel mileage you get out of it? Because I've always heard these two-wheel drive Cummins are supposed to be real good, huh?
Actually, yeah, running back and forth to work and running around town with the box turned off, I get about 16.4.
Okay.
That's hand calculated.
Yep.
Turn the box
that's
on,
good.
and it goes down quite a bit.
How's the response? Like, is it right there when you step into it?
Oh yeah, there's no lag really at all. If you're, already moving a little bit like we are now, and if I floored it, it just pick up and take off.
All right, whenever you want to, you can roll in it as hard as you want, I'm just saying.
Oh, he's got his foot on the brake.
I like it.
Here we go. Oh yeah, she's spinning a little. I see.
For sure. Okay, yeah, let's trade. Just let me know. We can work it out.
You have it down here tonight, right?
Bro, you want me to get you a selfie stick to help you with that?
Got to keep the followers happy.
Smart man, because even though this is a diesel and it's quite simpler than, having ignition and coil packs and spark plugs everywhere, it's still quite complicated on the routing side of things with hoses and tubing and wires.
Yeah, and when we put this thing back together in a month or two from now, we've got to remember, how it all goes back together. And a picture, that's never going to forget.
Yeah, I can't even remember what I did this morning, much less than 2 months from now.
Well, I mean, here's a perfect example right over here. In this one little corner, you've got coolant tubes, you've got electrical wiring, you've got low pressure fuel coming to and from the filter head, and you've got the low pressure injector return. And the challenge that one of us is going to have is how to put this all back in exactly the right spot.
Yeah, simple little trick, but you'll kick yourself if you don't do it because I've been there, I know. And speaking of one of us, this is kind of a one-man operation, so I'm gonna let you handle this. I know you like to be neat and organized. I'm gonna fire up that paint booth and take care of some business.
All right, have fun. I'll catch you in a little bit. Since the wiring harness was one of the last parts to go on the assembly line, it's the first part that comes off on the disassembly. That concept is known as first in, last out. Don't forget about the grounds. Down below we have the crank and cam sensor. Now when you're working with these small electrical and hose connectors, one thing you got to keep in mind is just to be patient. Because a lot of times you got to have just the right amount of pressure. Sometimes there's a little lock tab And sometimes they're just plain stuck, but you don't want to go nuts on it because you can very easily wind up breaking a connector. And if you do that, well, you're gonna have a hard time repairing it. So just take your time, there's no rush. A bit of diesel left in there. All right, this is pretty much the main branch on the passenger side. Now to the driver's. The other thing you want to keep in mind is as you take pieces and parts off like this heat shield, there's going to be a bunch more connections and wire routing underneath that you want to pay attention to, so it never hurts to take a couple more pictures.
What's next? What are you, a mime?
Very next thing is the passenger side main accessory bracket. So really the whole purpose of doing this bracket now is because there's one branch of the wire harness that they kind of snuck down there. It goes all the way back to a water temp sensor and an oil level sensor.
Why do they do that?
Why did they do that, says Rob, the camera guy? Well, that's a great question. I think sometimes GM just likes to mess with you, make you really work for it. And not only that, they bundle together a fuel line and an electrical wire in the same clip. Now, I'm fairly confident that whenever we pull this coolant crossover off, I'm gonna get wet. So I'm gonna clean up, put a pan underneath, and try to contain the mess. But first, organize parts.
Ahead, I'll spice up these boring tail lights. Time to black them out.
So with the coolant crossover out of the way, I thought we could finally take the wiring harness off, but there is one last wire that is still connected, and that goes way down in the valley, follows this guy right here, and is connected to the CP4 injection pump. Now there's a few parts of the air handling system that we need to take off in order to get to the back of the injection pump. Now a diesel might seem a little bit complicated with all the air that's flowing around, but it's actually quite simple. First of all, fresh air is sucked into the turbocharger through this guy right here. There's normally a filter and a mass airflow sensor on the end. The turbo pressurizes the air, it gets pushed all the way up front across the intercooler to cool it back down, up a charge pipe, and then ultimately in the engine right here. And this part is called a Y bridge. This is where the air gets distributed between the left and the right banks of the engine. This is the part that I need to get off to access the CP4 injection pump. So I'm going to start with the intake and get the Y bridge out.
Now, I know it might not be everybody's flavor, but if I could color match something or black something out, I'm doing it. 100% of the time, all day, every day, twice on Sundays. Now, what we have here is some new LED taillights from Summit Racing, but they only come in red. So I decided to take the factory OEM ones, do some spray out so we can test for translucent and get our right mix. So there's two different ways you could do this. Method one would be mix your base with a color blender and then put clear coat on top of it, just as you normally would. And as you can see, light shines through. Method two is mixing a little bit of base with the clear. Now, same visually, they're exactly the same. There's no difference, and that's really what I wanted to show you. As you can see on this one, light shines through. Now, I know I may have got a little bit heavy. These are slightly dark. After all, you do want people to see when you actually hit the brakes and not rear end you. But benefits, one step, mixing base with clear, and this one you get 100% UV protection, and you know that black is not going to fade out. And that's the way we're going to roll.
Goodbye, Mr. Mud Wasp. Off comes the Y bridge. And finally, I now have access to the very last wire down there in the injection pump. Now, and officially now, the whole wiring harness for this whole entire engine can come off. Just gonna snake it around all the fuel lines, snake it around all the nuts and bolts, make sure nothing gets tore up. And that is one wire harness officially removed. let me introduce you to compound turbocharging. This is a kit we picked up from HSP Diesel, and it's based around a Borg-Warner S485, and it works with a factory VGT down in the valley. Now, eventually, we are going to be replacing this one with a 67mm VGT, but we just wanted to get things mocked up so we could show you guys the airflow path in a compound setup and what our plans are. Not only that, this thing just looks cool. So, after the exhaust gases leave the high-pressure charger down in the valley, it spins the low-pressure atmospheric charger. Now, this pumps a lot of volume of air at a low pressure into the high-pressure charger, which sits down here. After the pressure gets raised even more, the air gets pushed down to the front of the intercooler, across it, and back into the engine through a Y-bridge, just like it would in a normal application. Now, there are several benefits to running a compound setup on a street or a race truck. Basically, we're combining the best attributes of both turbos, the smaller, highly responsive one and the larger, more powerful one. So, if you could run each of these turbos individually, there'd be some drawbacks. The smaller charger would run out of breath at a higher power level, and the larger turbo would make all the power you want, but it wouldn't be very responsive on the street. With compounds, you can tow and have nice, cool EGTs in a highly powerful truck that's responsive and you can drive every single day. So basically, compounds are the best of both worlds and the coolest looking thing we could put underneath the hood of Denali.
T-Boy, we hit it on this one. This thing is bad, bro.
Hey, we had it in the box for just a little while, but I had to throw it on, even if it's just for a minute, just to put eyes on it, because this compound setup, it looks really cool.
That's what I love about the Duramax. With a good compound setup, that big charger's up front, staring you in the face. Don't get cooler than that, really.
Not at all. And you know, we do have a little bit of teardown left to do. There's a lot of stuff going on with the fuel lines and such, but I kind of wanted to leave that on until we get a few more parts in the house, just to make sure I don't get any contamination or dirt or just lose the parts, because there's probably about 250 individual items in the fuel system alone.
Who's counting though, right? I just can't wait to hear these dudes spool up. Here, run it.
This thing's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. Our blackout continues when I finish up in the booth. That's next.
PowerNation is brought to you by Rock Auto.
All right, I'll be the first to admit, the only time you're gonna catch me wet sanding if it's after a paint job and we're gonna block out that clear getting ready to polish, or if it's plastic. I just prefer to do it dry because it's just cleaner. I mean, this is messy. But on plastic, it's a better idea to do it wet because your scratches are gonna be way finer and you're gonna get a way cleaner cut. If you do it dry, it could be a little rough. When the taillights are manufactured, they have some raised lettering stamped on the outside. Now, you might not think this is a big deal, but this is painting. It's all about the details. If I were to use just a little hand Scotch-Brite pad and scuff it out, yeah, we'd get the proper adhesion, but you definitely would see that in the finished product. That's why I got this soft block on here. We're gonna level it out, and it's gonna look clean. Ooh, that's slick, boy. She gone. Before I shoot that base coat, I'm gonna lay down one coat of adhesion promoter. All right, partner, I got our black base coat mixed up and I already pre-mixed our color blender. Now, I found the perfect concoction to be 4 parts color blender and 1 part base. That'll be just the right amount of transparency, not too light, not too dark, and it'll probably look pretty slick when it's all done. Now you really can't go wrong here. You just keep spraying until you get that exact shade you want. I ended up with about 3 coats and it looks killer. Time to get that glass-like finish with 3 coats of clear. Well, all right there, buddy. I guess we're not gonna wait to strip this little dude down, huh?
You know what, I got to thinking, and to properly measure and order the pistons that we're gonna need, we gotta take it apart and measure the cylinder bores and make sure everything's within spec. And so far, the two that I did check are within 0.5 of the original size. So all we gotta do is hone this thing out, get some stock size pistons, and we're in business.
Dude, that's awesome news. I mean, for 90, 100,000 miles, it's really nothing for a diesel, but you never know what you're gonna find until you pop the heads off.
Yep, just double check before you order something. So what you been up to? Just kind of relaxing back there?
Yeah, I actually finished up smoking these tail lights. The first one was a little dark, so I hit these right on the money. Still transparent, got light shining through, and black match the rest of the truck.
Yeah, and I like how you can kind of see just a little bit of that red. It almost gives it kind of a cherry look. And those are 100% legal, right?
Absolutely. I guess this would be a good time for me to slap them on since you got your hands full, you know?
Yeah, it'll be a minute before we actually need them since this truck won't be driving for some time. But if you have any questions about anything you've seen today, be sure to check us out at PowerNationTV.com.